Okay, so now we're going to move on to um, another story. This one's not as happy um, as it could be, and so this first story, okay. So these next two stories are about Disney, and Disney is supposed to be the happiest place on earth, okay, and right now it's just not. They have gone through um, an absolute just. It's been very. Let's put it this way: it's been very tough. It's been very tough. They've gone through an absolute gauntlet this year. Okay, between the whole Chapek thing, between the whole Victoria Alonso thing, between everything else, and right now, um, Bob Iger has come back and he is trying to clean up the mess that Chapek made, and he doesn't want to be there any longer than he has to. If I had to imagine, okay. So the reason I bring this up is because Disney has announced their next round of layoffs. Okay. So this comes from Deadline. Okay. And the headline reads Disney begins third round of planned layoffs. The third wave of layoffs at Disney got underway today, sources tell Deadline. Rising from the early information, the cuts are estimated to affect more than 2,500 jobs across the board at the company, we're now told. While parks and uh, While parks and resorts remain mainly untouched, the employee pink slipping this week isn't aimed at any particular division. We hear that television, which was hit hard in the second round, is largely spared with a small number of layoffs. Following the timeline of cuts, Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed in late March this is to be expected. This is expected to be the last significant layoffs at Disney for a while. However, there may still be some smaller cuts in the next couple of months, sources say. The initial wave began on March 27th when Iger confirmed that the plan for 3 rounds of layoffs as the company looked to reduce its workforce by about 7,000 employees. The second wave, which brought the largest and eliminated positions to 4,000 people, began April 24th. The company had said they expected the third round before the start of the summer. The new wave of layoffs comes as media companies are facing effects from the ongoing writers' strike, which is bringing film and television production to a halt. Disney revealed last February that it expected to cut $5 million and have cost savings as a result of the layoffs and other measures. ESPN Parks and Experiences and Products are the two other corporate divisions will see staff cuts along with entertainment. No frontline operational workers at the company's theme parks are expected to lose their jobs, however. And now that's the other piece I'll get to in a few minutes. Iger began outlining plans for downsizing soon, as returning as CEO last November. One targeted area for cuts has been the centralized distribution organization created by his predecessor, Bob Chapek. The company this week is starting to remove dozens of titles from its streaming platforms as a cost-cutting measure. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. So, essentially, what Iger is doing is he's cleaning up JPEG's mess. Okay, he has to come in and basically clean up his mess and take care of everything. And the thing is, this is going to not. I mean, this is not only hurting people's livelihoods, but you know, it's one of those things where Disney just doesn't. They are not back to where Iger was at the height of his powers. Okay, running this company all those years ago, and it used to be one of the most profitable companies in the world. Um, this is going to affect not only the immediate but the long-term future of Disney. Okay, so they are trying to uh, combine Hulu and Disney Plus together, and that's what the piece says about how they're removing some titles. Okay, and you're seeing that a lot, of streaming services across the way here. I mean, you've got Max that just launched yesterday, okay, and that has a whole new bunch of content on it, okay, and then there's a piece I'll be getting to later on in the show about Paramount and Showtime. So a lot of companies are doing this. They're trying to downsize. The good news is, if there is any good news here, that none of the frontline workers are going to be affected. And that is the big thing. Okay. So all of those people that are employees at the parks, Disneyland and Disney World, will be able to keep their jobs. And that's important to note. Um, so I think that, it's going to be a tough piece of sledding for Disney for, I don't know, 2, 3 years until they can get back going again, you know. And, I think that he's doing all of these drastic changes, he being Iger. He's doing all these drastic changes because he has to, not because he wants to. And I mean, cutting the stuff on Disney Plus. I'm talking about the theatrical things, not making as many sequels. I'm talking about cutting jobs. I'm talking about all this stuff. He's in damage control mode. Okay. And you just had that lawsuit against Chapek and a couple other people, come out a couple weeks ago because they lied about, the stock prices. And they basically told investors, we're going to be profitable in 2024, and it wasn't going to happen. And their stock dropped 12%. So he's playing damage control and he's trying to figure this all out. Um, I'll be curious to see what happens. I mean, this is good news that this is the last round of layoffs. Um, I would give this. I mean, we're not going to see this right away. I would give this until maybe not even the end of the summer, but probably more like the end of the year almost, September, October, because that's when you're really going to start to see things turn around. And by the way, they are no longer making that project in Florida. Okay, that was going to be 13,000 jobs. Okay, and that's the number of jobs that they wanted to put over the next 10 years. So they're not even doing that project because of the whole DeSantis lawsuit and everything else. Disney is in a very precarious spot right now. A very precarious spot. They are one of those companies right now. When we look back at the end of 2023, people are going to say Disney had one of the worst years. I'm not talking about financially. They're always going to make their money. I'm talking about the amount of drama. As I said, between the Chapek firing, between the Chapek lawsuit, between Victoria Alonso's lawsuit, between trying to clean this up, between the job losses, they've had a very, very precarious thing. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I'm glad to see that frontline workers are not going to lose their job. What do you think, Disney? What do you think about this last round of layoffs? Is it, you know, do you do you think that Disney needs to do another round of layoffs, or do you think that you know to try and absolutely save as much money as they can? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go from one Disney story to another, and as I just made mention in the um, previous article, in the previous story, that they're not going to be cutting frontline workers, and that's the important thing. Okay, so this comes to us from the THR. Okay, and the headline reads: Disney Parks chair says he won't be cutting frontline labor as part of the $5.5 billion cost saving measures. As Disney plans to enact $5.5 billion in cost saving measures, Disney Parks chairperson Josh D'Amardo said his department will be making cuts, but will not eliminate frontline positions as part of it. What I will not do is cut any labor from the front line, D'Amardo said. I want to make sure that our frontline cast members continue to serve our guests and create that true Disney difference. But there are opportunities to continue to look as we use technology in more progressive ways to save costs, to simplify the guest experience and save costs along the way. Speaking at an investors meeting on Monday, Tomorrow also touched on the news that Disney will not be building a new campus in Lake Nova, Florida, reiterating that this was due to the new leadership and changing business conditions. He added that the political situation in Florida has not yet impacted the park's business results. The executive said that eliminating plans for the campus has not impacted the $17 billion CEO Bob Iger and has said that Disney will spend the money in Florida over the next 10 years. That $17 billion investment will include transforming Epcot, a new Star Tours attraction, and Tyen's Bayou Adventure. We're thinking pretty aggressively about where we're going to take things in Florida, he said. On the news that Disney will be shutting down its Star Wars theme park Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel in September, which, by the way, guys, go back and watch that. I'll put the link down in the top right-hand corner. I did a whole piece about that. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Tomorrow said it was a pretty stunning asset and received one that from high ratings from guests. Now, truth be told about that, there were only 71 ratings on that. Okay, so it's not like there was 2,000 ratings or 1,000 ratings. It had 71 ratings from like TripAdvisor and Yelp and everything else. We did decide that despite the fact that there was a never before seen type of experience, and I think it raised the bar from a creativity perspective on where we can go next, we thought it was time to sunset the beginning in September, he said. It was losing money. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay. As well as Disney, as whether Disney may be interested in creating smaller parks in the same vein as Universal, Tomorrow demurred. I think, it must be interesting for them. For us, we keep focusing on our core assets and we should be spending most of our opportunity there, he said. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, um, number one, the fact that the fact that you have so first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. So his thing about closing that Galactic Star Cruiser, that was making money. That was making no money at all. So anybody who saw the piece I did the other day, okay, it was $6,000 for a family of four to go to that for 2 days. 2 days. So you checked in at 10 o'clock. Okay, you checked in at 10 o'clock on a Monday. You had to be out by 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. Was it immersive? Absolutely. But anybody who, and by the way, like I said, I'll put the little tag up there in the corner. Anybody who has seen the rooms, okay, the bunks were extremely small. I mean, there was a man, probably my size, okay, was sitting on the ladder at the top bunk, could barely fit in there. It was crazy. Now, I don't know if it was the whole room. There were other parts to it. I imagine it was, but still, there was a lot of problems with that. So when he's talking about the core things, he's talking about Marvel, he's talking about Star Wars, and he's talking about, other Disney, your basic Disney products. Okay. Um, you know, Live action, if you will, live action animation thing like The Little Mermaid or Dumbo or The Lion King, stuff like that. So that's their core thing because at the end of the day, that's where they're making their money. I mean, sure, they're making billions and billions and billions of dollars from their parks, but those are billions and billions and billions of dollars too. So getting back to that though, I do like the fact though that they are not going to cut the jobs from the frontline workers because that to me, look, everybody needs a job. It's one thing to cut the jobs at corporate, okay, to save, I don't know, $1 million here or, a couple million there. It's another thing to have people lose their jobs. And I'm glad he came out. And by the way, it's fascinating to note, okay, because Chapek was actually the head of Parks and Recreation before he was tailored by Iger back in the day to take the job. So it's always interesting in that respect. But nonetheless, I'm glad that the frontline workers are not going to be losing their jobs because it's one of those things where everybody needs a job, right? Everybody needs a job. And if um, if you don't have a job, it's livelihood and everything else. And so I think that, it's tough to do that. So I don't know. I understand the layoffs. I get the layoffs. Okay. I'm, um, you know, I look, I don't like them. I understand them though. And I'm hoping by the end of, you know, the year that they're going to start to, and when I say they, I mean Disney, um, going to start to turn things around because they need you. And, you know, it's one of those things where this happens in every single sector. This happens in every single sector. So um, I think that's the, um, I think that's all that can be really said about it. So, anyways, guys, what do you think that the chairman actually said? The chief actually came out and said there will be no frontline jobs cut. Is that a good thing? Obviously, that's a good thing. Let me ask you this. How long do you think it's going to take Disney to actually recover from this? And would you like to see more smaller parks or more smaller theme rides based? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody.